civic dialogue
Yes.
around California. Talk to us. When can we expect to see that? When can we begin that process?
Well, I'll begin laying the foundation for that process in the next couple of days. I am going to take a week off starting Sunday through Sunday, and then I expect to be in Sacramento 2 weeks from yesterday to get on the process. The reason why I say civic dialogue, it's not just what the legislators think or what the governor can muscle them into doing by a vote or two. What do the people of California want in terms of the key elements of California government, whether it's firefighting or whether it's the university or the prisons or health care for the poor or protecting the environment. All these things have a certain cost. The voters ultimately have to say, this is what I want. And we can live with whatever that result is. I think the choices are so difficult and the outcomes so profoundly different from what we've been used to. I think only a well-informed electorate can be entrusted with that ultimate decision.
Governor, I have a question in the back here. Could you address the fact that some Democrats say you have told them you would only serve one term?
Well, I don't believe anyone ever told you that because I've never said that.
Okay.
I've certainly opined on the thought that I may be looking for greener pastures after 4 years, but I've never made that commitment.
And so you stand by that today? There's no
I stand by the fact that I haven't really decided yet, and I think it would be both presumptuous and a little silly to talk about what we're going to do 4 years down the road when it's barely 24 hours into the process. So I think that's a silly point, although I sometimes point to the fact that I come from long-lived forebears, including my grandmother, who lived for 96 years, and her only daughter, who's still alive at the age of 98, walking around and more coherent than many of the people I meet in my line of business. Yes?
Jump-starting the budget process immediately by meeting with the leadership. This comes at a time when Arnold Schwarzenegger is still the governor. Is that awkward at all? Are you expecting any kind of degree of cooperation from Schwarzenegger as you start this process?
Well, it's not awkward at all. There's only one governor until I get sworn in, and I will respect that. But this gives me a period of time to learn, to study, to forge relationships that will put me in a good position to go forward in January. So this is a period, right now, I want to uncover, I want to open, as Ross Perot said, I want to lift up the hood and show the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, this is a big mess up there, and I want people to understand, I didn't create this mess. I've been there for 28 years, but I'm going to do everything I can to make it better. And I'll bring to bear whatever skills, whatever diplomatic talents I have, and whatever creativity I can bring to bear. It's a very tough thing. We've been living with smoke and mirrors in a certain unreality about what government is and how we want to pay for it and what we don't want to pay for it. So I'm going to try to close the gap between reality and perception here in California. Yes. I haven't really thought about the cabinet yet, but I appointed Republicans last time. I had a chief of staff named B.T. Collins, who was a very conservative Republican, and I appointed a conservative Republican as the head of the correctional departments, Howard Way. So I'm not adverse at all to recruiting people who are not members of the Democratic Party.
Do you see the
Wait.
prospect of a special election in March as something that would create urgency for the legislators?
That I know. Well, that would be something Arnold would have to call because it takes 90 days.
When you mentioned Jim Humes, did you think he's leading the transition now, or that you're considering him for whatever you would call it?
No, he's here, and he's done a very good job as Attorney General. He knows how things work in state government, so I've asked him to put a few folders together on what we might consider.
Are you considering him for whatever you would call it?
We're not. Well, let's get off this chief of staff stuff. That's a chief of staff kind of conjures up, you know, Eisenhower's cabinet or something. I think I want to rethink the structure. I want to flatten the administration. I want to look through ways of organizing state government to make it leaner, to make it more responsive, and to make it more coherent.
Governor.
Yes.
Do you expect to keep Governor Schwarzenegger's agency, the concept of replacing them, or
Well, I'll replace them slowly, and maybe some won't. No. And I'm certainly working with the Director of Finance. I think she's done a very credible job. But I'm not going to make any quick decisions on that.
Governor, there are a number of reform groups out there, including Platinum Living Group that got together last week with County Rice and Wooded Mound and a whole bunch of...
Do they really have 20 billion? Those 20 million? 20 million.
Not in Whitman's category. But do you see them as a resource? I mean, they're talking about some of the same things you have.
Well, I'm going to meet with them too. Look, I'm going to try to make a very inclusive. I'm going to create a very inclusive process. On the face of it, solutions don't appear obvious. So I'm going to share the pain and share the burden, and really exercise the democratic prerogative, which is the collective decision-making of the people themselves. Now, with 38 million people, there has to be leaders who stand in for the diversity of California. And that group you mentioned is one, and there'll be a lot of others that I intend to meet with.
Governor.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you envision some kind of public vote when you say that only an informed electorate can be trusted? So one way on the budget, will there be an actual vote?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've thought about that. It's a bit cumbersome. And on the one hand, people want to rule. On the other hand, they say, we send you to Sacramento, you get it done. So all I'm saying is that I think the decisions are so difficult that it's difficult for 120 legislators to just say, okay, we're making these radical changes. It may require some kind of referendum or ratification by the people. And I don't want to say any more than that, because it's more of in the nature of an obvious truth. We've been in a stalemate, and somehow we have to go back to the people and restore legitimacy to state government and earn people's respect to create some common purpose, and that's my goal.
An issue that may come up today here, the State Building Authority may vote to sell off 14 large state office buildings to private investors. Do you have an opinion on this? Good idea, bad idea?
Yeah, well, no, it's not an idea that I would have chosen. I think selling off the assets for one-time sources of money is not prudent, but of course they couldn't close the budget any other way. So I would not like to sell the buildings, but I don't know if anything can be done about it. And then again, it would add another $1 billion. So it is going to be a problem down the road, no question about it, unless somehow we don't need those buildings to fill up. If we do need them, then we're actually basically saving money at the expense of future increases down the road.
Then where do you see the revenue coming from?
I see the revenue coming from a restored California economy. That's where it always comes from. And that's really the challenge. And just this morning, I was reviewing a report. 2 economists said we need more stimulus, and 2 economists, both all Nobel Prize winners, said we don't need more stimulus. So when the Nobel laureates can't figure out what to do, mere politicians can't be expected to have any better ideas. But going forward, look, we know when I left the governorship last time, within 2 years, the revenue coming into the state increased by over 25%. That was real growth and dynamic activity. I would hope we could get something like that. I don't expect it will be that buoyant, but I do hope the economy will grow. If it doesn't grow enough, we're going to have a very difficult, painful, and possibly acrimonious process, but I hope not.
Do you think that new taxes, broad new taxes, would be part of that recovery?
That I don't know. That's part of what Arthur Laffer calls supply-side economics and others call voodoo economics. So I don't know, and I don't know that anybody can ever prove it. I do know people feel very fervently on both sides of that subject. But whether or not that's true, I think the fact that 60% of the people voted against an $18 a year tax tells me people are not in a mood to reach very deep in their pockets.